on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
It's time for a Friends and Neighbor Hour, and my invited guest this morning is David Morgan, County Executive, and recently passed the budget. Are y'all working on the budget?
Well, through my budget committee. So as the county executive, by law, I'm the chairman of the budget committee for Lawrence County government. So
okay.
Anyway, I set the agenda and all that kind of stuff, and we pass the budget through that committee first, and then it goes to the full commission on July 28th.
That's what I was going to ask you about, the actual process of the county budget. How does that work?
Yeah, so we began in March asking for all of our department heads to send in their requested budget for the year. And then we just start the chiseling process, because this year, for instance, I think if you added it all up, if we gave everybody everything they asked for, we'd have been about $4.5 million more than what we can afford. So anyway, so we have the arduous task of chiseling that away and figuring out what are needs and as opposed to wants, and try to factor in what can we do over the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months in some of these cases, because hey, we want them to tell us what they would like to have too down the road for their departments or for their whatever they need in their offices and different parts of the county, from the highways to EMS to solid waste, across the board, all the elected offices. So there's a lot of opportunity to spend money, of course, but we try to trim it back as best we can.
Who makes up the actual committee? I mean, you don't have to name names. I mean, is it positions?
So it's just four commissioners are set on that committee, and those are people that I appoint to that committee. I actually don't vote unless there's a tie on the committee. So I've rarely had a vote in that committee, and that's one thing a lot of people misunderstand about the county executive role is I don't have a vote in any of this legislative matters at all, except for the committees that I chair, and I would be a tiebreaker in those committees. But in the overall commission, the commission chairman is the one who's the tie-breaking vote. So anyway, sometimes county executives serve as chairman of the commission, and then they would, like TR was chairman for 8 years, but he had one time he actually voted to break a tie in.
How about that?
Out of all those resolutions.
Now, I think I know this from somewhere, but it's not coming to my memory. How many commissioners are there?
We have 18 in Lawrence County.
That's right.
18 districts, and each district has one commissioner. We've got about 46,000 some odd people on our rolls according to the last census. We think the number's closer to 50 as far as some that may have been missed in the
actual
census.
population.
Yeah. And so anyway, so that's what we're looking at. Giles County, for instance, has about 32,000 people over there, I believe, and they have 21 commissioners. So our school board has 9 school board members. So basically 2 districts have 1 representative on the school board. That's how that kind of plays out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic, the school board and the county commission. Because I served on the school board many years ago.
Right.
I have a friend that's on there now. Of course, several friends, I guess, because I know most everybody. But
right. Yeah. The older you get, the more people you seem to know around here.
but the school board doesn't have the power of the purse. The commission does.
That's right. Yeah.
But the school board's responsible for the schools.
That's right. It's a tough spot to be in as a school board member, right? You got all these dreams, things you want to do, and needs you have to meet, and you're beholden to the commission to make that happen. Now, I will say this: so we're under what's called a 57 Act, which is the 1957 County Government Act in the state of Tennessee. That is the law that we still abide by in Lawrence County. There's been another statewide act that was passed in 1981. And there's some differences between a 57 Act and an 81 Act. We still work under the 57, and most school boards and most school superintendents would all want to remain under the 57 Act. It centralized. 81 Act centralizes budgetary power with the county government more than it is even now. So so anyway, but one thing what people may not understand is we've got 9.75% sales tax rate in Lawrence County. 7% of that. So $7 for every $100 spent in Lawrence County goes to the state government. All right. Now the school system gets money back from that, right? There's some subsidies from the state for the schools and various things like that.
Yes.
All right. So they get a portion of their funding from there. Then that remaining 2.75% is cut in half. All right, so that's 1.365 if I'm doing my math right. 1.365% of every dollar spent in Lawrence County goes into cash for the school system. All right, and that's where you get the majority of your funding is from the sales tax dollars.
Okay.
So inside the city limits, the city of Lawrenceburg gets the other half of that other 1.365%, and then outside of any incorporated area, so all the unincorporated parts of the county, any sales tax out there, the county gets that other 1.365%. So, just for people to understand, like people ask sometimes, like, why does the county government invest in, Main Street, or why does the county government invest in the Chamber of Commerce? Why does the county government do this? Well, because every time we grow business, we grow the tax revenue, right? And so, and it's better to use sales tax dollars. It's better to use hotel motel tax dollars. It's better to use like tourism dollars. People that come here maybe touring the Amish or for ball games or various things. It's better to use their money that they're spending here and
Sure.
that little bit of tax than it is to have to consider, looking at other ways to generate revenue, which would be property taxes. And I'm vehemently opposed to ever raising property taxes. I think we can manage the budget just like we've done the last 4 years in such a way where we actually lower the number.
I think that's why we see so much encouragement from people to shop local. You hear that a lot.
Yes,
and
sir.
of course, the banner of a lot of local government officials has always been to try to encourage business growth. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Well, it's important. Like if a community's not growing, it's dying. There's no neutral. And I know a lot of people would like everything just to stay the same forever.
Yeah.
But that won't happen. So if there's not economic opportunity for people to get good paying jobs and things of that nature, I've seen it all over the state. Counties that are economically depressed, which we're not. We were at one time,
Sure.
but we dug ourselves out of that hole. But counties that are, Jeff, I mean, they become crime ridden. They become drug infested. When people don't have hope, what's the American dream? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
Sure.
But if they can't pursue happiness in their community, if they can't, and what makes us happy? At the end of the day, I think we would all agree, it's family, man. It's faith. It's having our people next to us. I've got 5 children. I want every one of them to be able to have a career right here in Lawrenceburg.
Would that be special?
Find a good job,
Yeah.
and be able to live here. I want those Norman Rockwell moments occasionally.
Absolutely, me too.
I want that. So, but it takes investing in economic opportunity here in Lawrence County, and man, I'm just proud of what we've been able to do in that regard. We have seen the largest industrial investment dollar-wise in the history of our counties happen over the last 3 years, and with Magna International, and they've just hired their 200th employee.
Wow.
I know a lot of people from Lawrence County that work there. There's some people from out of county too, some people that, from Giles County, Wayne County, and Murray County that said, hey, I want to try to get a job down there. So there's people from all over, and the thing about Magna is they go through the selection process and they choose who they think is the best, will be the best employee.
That's always been the case. I mean, that we've had people coming and going.
Murray was the hub for a long time for this region, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I know a ton of people's worked there. So that's a big deal. And you think about, let's talk about property taxes for a second. Because,
all right.
Property taxes are the lion's share of the way that county government pays for services, right? So, I wish they would break it down on the property tax bill, actually, how much of our property tax dollars go to schools, how much goes to roads, how much goes to EMS, how much goes to sheriff's department, and then just break it down all the way down, because then I think we would understand more, okay, this is what it's going to provide for me and my family and whomever.
Sure.
But what happened, so this is called an equalization year. And so everybody got these property tax notices, in May? First week of May is when they always go out.
Yes.
And a lot of our values have gone up considerably.
They have.
Of course,
I'm in that business, and they have remarkably,
unreal, isn't it? It's so I texted Brady Hutt the next morning. I said, thank you for increasing my net worth today, But now, if you're not borrowing money, you're not worried about that quite as much, right? But that's one way to look at it. But again, a lot of people were like alarmed about that and concerned about that. And I understand that. Some people's values went up considerably. But the math the maths out in the way that it's called equalization. So the state law says county government can't take in more money in an reappraisal year than we did the year before in property taxes. Like that is, I mean, you cannot take in more money. So they say, okay, here's X amount of houses, here's X amount of businesses, and you cannot bring in a penny more than you did last year. So how do you do that then? Because our rate was 2.01, and now everybody's values went up. Now everybody's values went up, Jeff, to like, you know, some of them 150 to some of them 150%. Some of them, I mean, most of them about 50 to anywhere from 25 to 50%, but based on kind of what your housing is, it went up. But anyway, so what happens then? The state says, okay, that 2.01% is going to let the county would bring in a ton more money,
a lot more money.
So you got to lower it down. So that percentage rate, we've lowered it down. We figured the new budget at 1.48%.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. So I've looked back, and that is the lowest property tax rate. The actual percentage of your value that you're paying in property tax is the lowest that we've seen in a few decades.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to tell you something. That is when you see a rate that low, and you see a community as vibrant as ours, you see a community that's got their ducks in a row. Things are going well. There's a good balance of investment here with growth.
Sure.
And you know, and when industry sees that number, think about it. When a new industry says, "Hey, we're looking for a place to go," listen, every percent, we just lowered it 26%. Is what it essentially is. What the actual rate lower is, 26%. So when they see that, that's 26%. You know, if they're investing $200 million, I mean, that's 26% on their property taxes every year that they get to save. That's a considerable amount of money for industry, right?
Yeah.
And for all of us, really, if you think about it. So I figured my parents' property tax. I figured some people in my church, they were concerned, you know, and everybody that I've figured so far, most of them live in older homes, but every one of them are going to pay less, actually. You know, $100 less or $75 less, maybe $150 less in the new year than they did last year. Yeah. So I think that's a win-win for everybody.
So even though your property value on the tax card has been raised, you still may not pay more money.
The majority, from what I've seen, the majority of people, because the majority of homes in Lawrence County have depreciation, right?
Sure.
The majority of people are going to pay less from what we've figured. I mean, anybody that's called, I haven't had one person that's asked me to figure it for them or call me and talk about it that's actually paying more. So there are those out there that will pay a little bit more, but but essentially it's probably because either theirs was undervalued at one time, and it's hard for the assessor's office to get around and figure everything, or two, it's about demand. And what the demand, and you know this in real estate, the demand in Lawrence County right now is 2 acres to 15, 20 acres and a house, right? That is what people are looking for. So if you got 5 acres and a house, your price just went, your value just went up because that's what everybody's looking for when they move here. So anyway,
supply and demand.
It's about supply and demand partially because they go off of comps on sales comps and how things have gone. So anyway, so you know, I was in a meeting last week with the Association of County Mayors, and one thing that we're petitioning the state government this year, I'm on the board for the state board for the Association of County Mayors, and one thing we're petitioning the state to do is don't send out those property tax notices until you figure the new, because the state tells us what that certified tax rate has to be, that 1.48. We actually looked at dropping that down to 1.47 to get, you know, as a further tax cut this year. We looked at the possibilities of that, but there were some things we need to do with that extra $148,000 that would equate to. With EMS and a few other things. So we ended up the budget committee ended up not making that decision, but the state gives us that rate. But I said, we're talking to the state, like, if you're going to send that out, you're scaring people to death. Like, you know, most people don't look at it and say, wow, my net worth just increased by $200,000 or $150,000. You know, the first thing they see is, oh, I'm going to have to pay more taxes. But most of the time, you don't pay more. You pay either even or less, or, you know, $50 more.
Yeah, maybe a little more or a little less, but.
So we are, one of our initiatives this year from the Association of County Mayors and the County Services Association for the Commission is to tell the state, listen, let's put that certified tax rate in there, plus or minus 5% on there. You don't have to nail it down perfect, but like, but let the citizens see, here's what your tax bill will be at the new, what we estimate the certified tax rate to be. Because, I mean, they send this out in May, and then they give us a certified tax rate by the end of June.
Yeah.
They could do all that. I mean, property taxes aren't due till next year.
Yeah.
Right? So they could do all of that at the same time, as opposed to creating hysteria and worry and concern.
And it did.
Oh yeah, well you hear it, yeah, yeah, for sure. I got all kind of phone calls. I'm like, hey, hold on a minute. The county government doesn't, like, we don't control this at all. Like, this is something the state does, and you know, we're an extension of state government. That's what county government is.
Well, of course, to give you the personal story, of course, I expected it. I had bought more property and added to my. I had an opportunity to buy more property that joined me from one of the Amish farms that was. Amish boy that was leaving.
Okay.
So I increased my property by quite a bit, and so then when the tax bill came out, mine was a whole lot more than it was the year before.
Yeah.
But that was expected.
Well, you had more land. Yeah.
It was I got more property. So it was like, holy cow! I've got a lot of stuff here. So
yeah. Well, and for farmers, you know, you can put a lot of your land in green belt and things like
absolutely.
that. And you know, so anyway, are we taking calls today?
We can take a call.
Let's see what we got.
This is one of our regulars. Well, I figured you might chime in on this.
Yes, because one of my areas I did research in was business mathematics. But anyway, you know, the average person, and most of us are average, when it comes to math and percents and things like that, they're not as interested in the percent as much as looking at the year before and the year before and the year before as to how much they paid and whether it increased or not. I was just going to throw that out. Second thing is I was wondering how, and this is not a criticism, it's just my observation. Another thing is when it comes in, it can seem like a lot if you pay it by the year, which a lot of people do. But another thing I wondered about is how the mayors and the local people interact with the governor and the state senators on a macro level, because I remember, I think it was Keith said he had a hard time getting the attention of, I forget, Marsha Blackburn, and how that works as far as who here meets and comes back to let us know these things. Is it him? Is it, because I don't mind telling you, I'm the type of person, I'll call or write a letter. I bypass a lot of local, but I've lived a lot of places and didn't know the local. Just thought that might be an interesting thing people would be interested in.
All right, thank you, Peggy. Yeah, your interaction with state government probably, and even federal, is probably pretty important.
So yeah, and that, you know, that's actually been something people discuss and talk about, have a difference of opinion even in this election cycle. Is, you know, where's Morgan at? You know, and I answered a question in a debate the other night was, you know, I'm there. It's just according where there is at the time, whether that's seated at my desk having meetings with people, or whether that's at state government. So let me just say this: it is the county executive's responsibility to stay in contact constantly with our state representatives, our state senator, our governor's office. There are conferences every single year. GovCon is a conference every year. The governor's conference he puts on, I go to that every single year. He updates, he lays out what his initiative is for the year, what he wants to do, and how they're going to do that. I go to the legislative conference every year, which Tennessee County Services Association does that. We have two of those meetings. One is in the fall, and we actually decide through those meetings and the series of committee meetings that we have there for 3 days what we are going to be petitioning state government to do for counties. Right, so we are the voice, and as far as county mayors goes, there's 95 counties in Tennessee, and so we are a small concentration, but we represent entire counties, and so we have the ear of the governor, oftentimes more than your average city mayor would have, right?
Sure.
So anyway, communication. For instance, Marsha Blackburn, even as our U.S. senator. Marsha Blackburn, I've had her cell phone number since I came into office. Anytime I text her, she responds to me. Anytime I call her, if she can't answer it, she does. If she's busy, she usually calls me back, and I respect that. Same thing with Same thing with all the way down the line. Even Scott Desjardins did that for us, and now of course we're a new district and all that. But my our state reps Doggett and Capley, and then our state senator Paige Wally, they are quick to answer and respond and be there for us. Now we don't always get what we're asking for out of them, which this year we're going to be asking for more. The state keeps 7% of the sales tax,
Right.
and I argue that the state really doesn't do a ton other than maintain state highways in our community for actual commerce growth and development. Like, that's local. We do that locally. We provide the policing to help businesses stay safe and marketable. We provide chambers of commerce that do all the networking and advertising and various things. It's local business that supports local business. I argue we need to keep more of that sales tax money locally as opposed to sending it to Nashville and then begging for it back.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. Let me talk about what she said on the mathematical side of things. And
Sure.
so here's how I've had people look at this the easiest way to figure your property tax. So let's just use $400,000 is what your value is on your home and your 2 acres. Okay, so residential property is taxed. You take 25% of that.
Right.
All right, so it's $100,000. Okay, that's what you're actually taxed on. You're not taxed on $400,000. You're taxed on 25% of whatever that ultimate overall value is.
That's right.
And again, even remember this: that $400,000 is under market value, like for most people.
For most people,
you know that being
for most people it is.
Yeah, you would buy up a lot of those people's houses at their tax valuation number, right? But
that's been true for many
it's
years.
always been that way, and that's intentional. We do that. We undershoot that because you don't want to overshoot that, right? So anyway, so you take that $100,000, and our new tax rate, okay, is $1.48 per $100. So what you do with that $100,000, you times that by 0.0148, and that'll give you the amount of money you pay this year. Last year, you can look at your check receipt or whatever, or
Right.
you can just take this number, 0.0219, okay, and 0.02019 was
Right.
the tax rate last year. You can multiply that by your last year's value, and you can see what you paid last year. Or hey, I multiplied it by my new value this year, and I saw, wow, I would be paying a lot more if the tax rate didn't change for me.
Yes.
And so that's why we've brought it down to the state recommended level.
Sure.
To save
Yeah.
people as much as they can. So
Right.
anyway, that's kind of where we're at on that. Yeah, my responsibility is to be there, even with federal offices and officials. Here's the thing: we've landed. Relationships is the most valuable capital you have in your life. I think in every way. Your relationship with God, number one. Your relationship with your family. That's where you have to invest the most time
Sure.
and energy into.
Sure.
And in government, relationships is what it's all about too. And so for Lawrence County's sake, I have invested a lot of time and energy. I go to as many conferences and things I can, and even travel to D.C. a couple times a year to different conferences, and I meet with our senators and I meet with our congressmen, and I'm always asking, hey, look, Lawrence County, don't forget about us. We need you. We need to get a hold of this grant money. We need to get a hold of that grant money. We need a letter of recommendation, Senator Haggerty, Senator Blackburn, from your office. Hey, no problem. We'll do that for you. So we've actually been able to land more grant money in the last 3.5 years than we landed in what we have done the math on almost 12 years combined before.
Sure.
And a lot of that is because basically I go and I ask for our money back. When we go to the federal government, we're asking for our income tax.
It's right. It's our money.
It's our money. And I'm not going to apologize for going and saying, give us some of our money back.
Yes.
Because here's what the federal government does every year. And I didn't know this till I started going.
Let me answer that.
Yeah.
They waste a lot of money.
There you go. Well, that's true. Let's do that. They do that. Well, I've noticed, like, the bigger government gets, you go from local government, which I think is the most accountable, and
Yes.
I welcome anybody to come and help us trim our budget down.
Yeah.
I'll take any advice from any mathematician, from any accountant, come and help me understand where we can trim it, and I'm open to it.
Yeah.
But like, local government's the most accountable for every penny, and then state government gets a little less accountable, and then
Yeah.
you go to federal government. But here's what I learned early on, Jeff, is that I go to these conferences and they say, okay, hey, we're releasing, $1 billion for this grant nationwide.
Yes.
Here's where to apply. And so the politicians get up there and they say, hey, $1 billion for, what do we want to say? Like rural home rescue, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Fixing up old people's homes or something. And they take the pictures, they make the video, but then they know, because of the track record, that 100% of that money is never going to get divvied out. They know that. And because it's so difficult. That's why you pay grant writers big money. It's so difficult to figure out how to get that money. And they don't make that easy.
They don't.
No. They say they do. But anything the federal government does to try to make your life easier and better is so convoluted and complicated, it's unbelievable.
It is.
And so just get on one of their websites and try to figure stuff out, right? But anyway, so that's kind of what happens. So you got to have skilled people. Nancy Brewer works in my office, and she's my executive assistant. And Nancy is, she's a rock star when it comes to writing grants and landing grants and mining and finding them and looking for them.
Someone like her is invaluable, really.
Oh yeah, we can't put a price tag on her, and she even helps nonprofits in our community.
Sure.
We're there to help anybody that wants to go get grant money, because that is our tax money, and part of my job is to go get it back.
Yeah.
And you got to do that with some grace. You can't just walk up into a senator's office and demand, hit your hand on the desk and demand. You're not going to get jack squat if you do that, right?
No.
So you got to know how to talk to people and get stuff from them.
Right.
And anyway, so I'm learning all that kind of stuff, and I enjoy the challenge. But yeah, we've been blessed, man. We've finally been put on the list. When I came into office, if you travel, if you go to Lincoln County, Giles County, a couple other counties around us, they have an emergency operations center for their EMA.
Yeah.
And there are federal grant dollars to help us build one of those. And we've never gotten that before. So my first year in here, Shelton Barnett, our EMA director, is telling me about that. He said, hey, our congressmen, our senators have to be the ones that put us on the list because it's a federal grant.
Yeah.
And so my first year, when I went to D.C., man, I was in Desjardins' office, and that's who I was talking to his chief of staff and to Scott about it. Hey, and they were like, oh, yeah, we'll get you on the list. And so I got both senators wrote letters to Desjardins' office, because the House handles all the appropriations, dollar appropriations in the federal government. And so it took us a couple years, but just found out news like 2 weeks ago that we're on the list now to be able to get federal dollars. Of course, there'll be a match from Lawrence County on that, but to get federal dollars, and that, Jeff, that's our income tax money we're getting back to Lawrence County.
Yes.
To help build a facility that'll help our emergency services be able to take care of people better in Lawrence County.
Interesting. Listening to you, and of course I've known some of this, but the complex world of federal government and having to deal with it is unreal.
It is.
It's so deep and long.
Well, that's why it's important. We've got, Tennessee just added a 9th district, so we've got more representation. We have 9 congressmen, and Congress is supposed to 8, which is where we were before. Since I've been in office, since 2022, I'm going to have 3 different congressmen. Yeah. And so, it'll kind of roll over into a second term. If I'm fortunate enough to get a second term, that I'll have a 3rd person to call.
Sure.
So again, how important is it to build relationships with these folks?
Sure.
I'm actually tonight here at WDXE, or WLX, we're having the debate for our 9th District Congress race. And so I think all 4 candidates will be here, or 5, however many there are now.
Yeah.
4 or 5 candidates will be here at 6 o'clock back in the Country Cafe. I'm going to be here for that. Again, I've had lunch with almost every one of them. I've sat down with them, been on the phone with them. Of course, they all want my support, right? But at the end of the day, I want to get to know them. And I want to get to know each one of them. And one of them is going to be our next congressman or congresswoman.
Yeah.
And it's important that the county executive in Lawrence County has a relationship with those people. It's important that I not just wait for them to come to me, but that I go to them too. Yes.
Sure. Sure. I think that's a real key point, the relationship building process, even for someone in business. I mean, you have to have good relationships with your community, with the people that you deal with, or you won't be successful.
It's about who you know, right? In life, it really is, and you can either look at that as with a glass half empty mentality. Oh man, it's all about the good old boy network or this or that, or you can look at it with a glass half full mentality, like, no, relationships is the capital of progress, and you have to invest in relationships more than you invest in anything else, I think, in life. And life just gets better when you spend time making relationships better and stronger. Yeah.
I want to circle you back to the budget process again.
Yeah, let's go back to
So back to the budget process, because I think that's fascinating, and it's a necessary thing for local government. This has to be addressed. So what were some of the challenges to get to a place where here's the recommended budget? I mean, so were there some that stick out rather than others, or was it all pretty smooth?
No, this year went pretty good. I'll say, so here's what we've done the last 3 budgets. So when you come into office as county executive, you inherit a budget, right? So T.R. Williams, his last budget that they passed just a few weeks before I was sworn in, that was a budget I had to work off of my first year. So, which I'm kind of thankful for that. The last thing you'd want was be coming into office and having to do the budget process.
Yeah.
So, but every single year we've not only balanced the budget, but we've exceeded that, and we've put money away into our rainy day fund. So when I came in, we had about $9.2 million in fund balance. That's our savings. Okay, that's
Okay.
the rainy day fund. And now this past year, so in 3 years, we now have $14.2 million. And Jeff, that's the largest 3-year increase that I can find tracking it back. The largest increase we've seen in a 3-year period of time.
Okay.
And and I've been as conservative as I possibly can be, but also we've made some real advancements. When I came in, we were having shortages in all things emergency services, like Sheriff's Department, EMS. We had shortages in county fire, volunteers even. We didn't have enough of them. And part of the reason why is because it had been some time since we made a sizable investment in those programs. And look, I'm not disparaging my predecessor or anyone that was on the commission before. There are seasons that you invest in this. There are seasons you invest in this. I mean, just turn the knob in county government, and by the time you get back around, you got to put money back in that same thing again.
Sure.
But this was the pressing issue for us. We weren't even able to staff enough ambulances for the community. We were having to bring ambulances. We'd ever bring, assistance in from Giles County, from Wayne County, sometimes Murray County, when we would have multiple car accident, and you'd have 6 people, that were in
Sure.
those cars. I mean, they all got to be transported.
Sure.
So anyway, we fixed a lot of that, and this year, and this was the biggest challenge for us. So EMS, as a county executive, I'm the CFO of the county by state law. That means I'm responsible for presenting a budget and then letting the commission passes the budget. That's their sole constitutional responsibility, is to pass a budget every year. There's a lot of other things commissioners do, and I'm thankful for that. They serve on a lot of other committees and do stuff. But then my job is to manage that budget throughout the year. That's the CFO side. Of course, I have a budget office, budget director that does all that. But then as the CEO of the county, I have multiple departments, 9 different department heads that are under me, and EMS is one of those.
Okay.
So when you run for office, it doesn't mean you become overnight an EMS professional, right? So you trust you got a lot of learning to do, and that's part of what I've done too. I go to as many things I can to learn about how to handle emergency services and things like that. So we invested in them when I first came into office considerably. We gave a really big raise to try to get our staffing numbers back up, and I'm going to say we did. That first year we were able to get our staffing numbers up. And now we're fully staffed after that first year. Now that changes a little bit here and there, ebbs and flows. You'll have a supervisor get an offer that's better in a neighboring county, or something like that will happen.
Sure.
So this year, here's what's happened. So all the counties around us have gone to a schedule 24 hours on, 72 hours off. Our schedule has always been 24 hours on, 48 hours off. If you do the studies on that, the work-life balance that comes with that, the levels of exhaustion that come with just having 48 hours off. Now, it sounds like a lot, but if you work for 24 hours straight, they never get 8 hours of sleep in that, or even 6 in a shift because of the call volume.
Sure.
So they're exhausted. If you've ever worked, when you were at DRM for a while, and I was,
Yeah.
I had a 46-hour shift, but I think I bailed out at 38. My brother Tim went on to work 40 at 46 that time. But we would oftentimes have 24-hour, 30-hour, based on what we're trying to do with industry, getting them up and going. So,
Sure.
And man, after you're working 12, 16, after 16 hours, you're burning fumes, right?
Right.
So that's what happens with our EMS, and they're exhausted. So the first day off, they're trying to catch up on sleep.
Yeah.
but their kid may have a ball game, they have something significant they need to be at, and they want to be there, and so they cut that short, you know. And then they've only got one more day then to try to get back ready to go to work that night, you know. So we were able to pass. I'm super proud of this, and we've been able to manage our budget in such a way where we can do this. We were able to pass a new work schedule for them, a 24/72 work schedule. That's through the budget committee. Now that'll go before the whole commission, July 28th, for their approval as well. So our fund, what we show every year in the beginning of the budget process, we'll show like a negative hit. Okay, because there's some things you want to do, and part of that is capital projects. We're going to spend some of that rainy day fund on some capital projects, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to have too big of a recurring cost hit in that fund in that budget. And so this will show the biggest hit we've ever had to our budget in the beginning, but every single year we have added to the fund balance at the end of the year. So we under project revenues in the budget process, and we over project expenditures is what we do. So I did a study when I came in office over 10 years span. Lawrence County government spent 91% of what we budget to spend.
Okay.
That's our average. And so this year's budget is about $28 million. So let's just say it's 10% for math's sake. Let's say it's 90%. So that's $2.8 million that we most likely will not spend based upon our spending trend for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so you can figure, and you know that's kind of going to come in on the back end throughout the year. So we amend the budget. The budget is a living document. So we pass something, the comptroller says, you know what, okay, based on your track record, they're auditing us every year, every penny they audit. They know what they know what our growth rate is. They know what we can do and what we can't. So we send the budget to them, and they say, okay, yeah, we approve that. We think you can manage that. You can do that. And then throughout the year, we amend it, right? So anytime more revenue comes in, we add it.
Sure.
Add it.
Sure.
And sometimes there's expenditures throughout the year that we didn't plan on, that you didn't know you needed to do, and you do that throughout the year as well.
So once the budget committee has a recommended budget, then it goes to the full commission. How much debating and back and forth goes on with the full commission to actually pass a budget?
So there hasn't been much at all in the last few years, because we invite all the commissioners to come to the budget committee meetings. And a handful of them do. They'll come to every budget committee meeting.
Sure.
But the majority don't come to those meetings and sit through, because those are some long meetings. I mean, we're going, we'll go for 4 hours, a couple different times to go through these things. And so far, and I'll knock on wood, so far, there hasn't been a lot of debate in passing our budget, but I'm anticipating maybe some things happening, because it's an election year, and it's a week before the election. So I'm just going to be a realist and say, there may be some stuff discussed and talked about for various reasons, but I'm very confident that our commission will pass this budget. It's a good budget. We are going to spend a little bit of that rainy day fund, which, hey, what's the point in having it if you're not going to spend some of it and use it to, we've got more than enough in our fund balance for the safety side, the rainy day side. So we've got extra in there now for capital projects, and we're going to do some of that this year.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very
I'm excited about all that.
What are some of the? Of course, I guess I'll go to the schools and school system, and one of the reasons why is I happened to have dinner with one of the school board members.
Okay.
The other night, and we were talking about different projects that the schools have out there, and things that some of the schools want. So where are we with some of the schools and school systems as far as projects?
So they paid a consulting company 2 years ago now to do a growth study for them.
Yes.
They paid a company that does this all over the country, and it's very reputable. And all of our hope was that we don't have to build a new school anytime soon. Okay, that was our hope. And our hope was met with facts, and so they came back and they said, hey, look, looking at growth trends in Tennessee, Lawrence County area, this region, you have sufficient classroom space across the county for the next 10 years, right? Okay. At least, they said, at least the next 10 years, and that's kind of what they felt conservatively that they should project. What we don't have is enough athletic facility. So we've built out classroom space over the last several years. I mean, we just did a bond my first year in office. My first budget, we did a bond, and we gave the school system $12 million to kind of to loosen their belt a little bit, to make some space where they needed space. And you've seen some of those projects taking place over the last few years. So we're proud of being able to do that. But now we're looking at some athletic facility space and different things like that. So let's go to the Southern Tennessee Higher Education Center. So Lawrence County and Lawrenceburg own that property, but Columbia State, uses our building.
Sure.
They've made us an offer. Well, I signed the paperwork 2 weeks ago to go ahead and let them do the process of purchasing that property. And now the city and the county, we are in discussions about what piece of the pie each of us get.
Sure.
But I've been working with Michael Atkins and school board members too about what are we going to do with these funds that come back to us from the sale of that property, because that money was invested. The money that was borrowed through government bonds, and government bonds are very, very restrictive, and you have to put into the language of the bond exactly what you're going to spend the money on, and that's where it has to be spent. And so it had to be spent on educational facilities, and that's exactly what's going to be done now with the money that are returned to us. So the plan is, according to what the school system wants, and they're looking at building a gymnasium in Summertown, and they're looking at building a multi-use facility at Lawrence County High School. And Loretto just got a new gym a couple of years back, right when I came into office. I think it was getting completed. But I think Loretto needs some expansion of some tennis courts or various things down there at their school. So, of course, I was a high school tennis player at Lawrence County High School, so I'm all about some tennis courts if we can help build them down there. Loretto's were terrible when I was coming up, like they were over there at the city park, and I haven't seen those courts in a long time. I don't know what kind of shape they're in, but there weren't enough of them either, so a match would take really long. And so I think they're planning on building some at the school there. So,
Okay.
So again, all three schools will get a little something out of this deal. Summertown is probably the one that needs a gym the most,
And a lot of people may not know, but the county commissioners and the school board, the representatives of their areas,
Right.
they vie for what they want in their area, and there's a negotiation process and a back and forth.
That's it.
And so it's not like you just make a decision to build a gym over here. The county commission does all this.
That's it.
Along with the help and influence of the school board.
And I don't have a vote in it. I'm just get to help try to influence it and set some of the initiative, right? Moving forward. So work with the superintendent of schools and do all that.
Yeah.
So my role is purely influential in a lot of these deals, but you got to give each. You kind of got to give each area a segment.
It's human
of the county.
nature. It's human nature. If they get a lollipop, we want a lollipop.
That's right. Yeah. And look, Loretto. That new gym's beautiful down there. If you've ever been there, it's nice, and it's utilized for so many things more than just sports too. And so school assemblies and whatnot. But they've got two gym floors, actually two gyms that they can do competition games in. You know? I mean, I kind of miss going into the barn, honestly, and seeing Lawrence County play Loretto. There's an electricity to that atmosphere in that old gym, that's special. And I'll be real about Summertown's current gym. That's my favorite place to play basketball growing up.
It's a great old gym.
It's beautiful, and it's not going anywhere, right? They're going to take care of it. They're going to still utilize it for practices and probably middle school games. I'd say maybe not middle school games, but maybe volleyball or something will still go on there. But it is pretty dangerous in there. If you've ever played basketball in there, like a good hard foul will knock you right into a wall. And so there's a lot to be considered. There's been some kids injured.
And there's enough growth there that they need a bigger gym.
That is the growth. Yeah, right. The north part of the county is growing faster than any other part of the county. So
I'm well aware of that.
They need the elbow room, and it's time for Summertown. And that's a second term initiative for me. I'm actually working on it right now. I really want to see those properties and facilities expand. And in Lawrence County, I'm a Lawrence County High School guy. I'm a Wildcat. So we've had one gym floor. I mean, when I was in school, we had, I think, 1,100 students. We had one gym floor for 1,100 students. I mean, you combine Loretto and Summertown populations of their high schools, it's still smaller than Lawrence County High School.
Yeah.
Combined right now, they've got 3 competition level floors, right?
Yeah.
So Lawrence County needs some space for practicing and different things. If you've ever been over there during the day, that gym is packed, and
Yeah.
and you know, it's just hard sometimes for coaches to be even able to talk, right?
Yeah.
And be able to say what they need to say without
Sure.
distraction, interruption. And so,
Sure.
anyway, multi-use facility for them will be really helpful. The band will be able to use it. Everybody will be able to use it for different things. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited about that too.
Good deal. Good deal. A lot going on. There's
A lot of good stuff
A lot
happening.
going on. So we've got a good 5 minutes or so left before we have to clock out of here. I was just interested. You were talking about. I know you to be a busy guy, and in your position, it's given that you're going to be. I just wondered how you manage time.
Well, time will be, you either master time or time becomes your master.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I told some people when I first came in, like, how do you do all the things you do? And I said, well, I've got to be very, very, very cognizant of my time and my family and prioritize things right. Number one person that gets my time before anybody else in the morning when I wake up is God. You know, I spend time with Him every morning, and His Word. You know, the Bible tells us that His Word washes our mind. It gives us understanding we don't have. It centers us, and so every morning that's what I do first. And then I have some time with my wife. We talk about our day and what's going on, and then I hit the ground running. You know, I see my kids in the morning, and most of them are sleeping in the summertime, so I don't bother them too much. I may run over there and give them a kiss on the head while they're crashed out on the couch from a long night of whatever they're playing video games or doing whatever they do in summer break. But in the mornings during school time, we're up together in the mornings and you know,
Yeah.
pray with the kids or whatever before they go to school, and then you just go about your day, man, and you got to organize your day and plan your day. And you know, here's how I do things a lot of times. So if I've got evening meetings, which would be committee meetings, right, in the commission. If I've got evening meetings, oftentimes I'll carve out an hour or two in the morning to do things I need to do personally or for my family, or
Sure.
and then I'll, you know, basically I'll spend 8 or 9 hours or doing county business after that, because it'll go into the evening time.
Sure.
Right. So that's kind of how I work.
There's a lot of evening work for you, I imagine.
Yeah, there is, and I don't have to go to every committee meeting, and I don't always go because I trust my commissioners. I mean, we got 18 commissioners. That's their part of their constitutional responsibility is to be on these committees, and you know, I don't have to be in there micromanaging them, but I do go to the majority of them.
Well, it's incumbent upon you to know what's happening.
Right, and there's a lot going on, and you know, in hindsight's 20/20 on a lot of things. Sometimes you might, you know, if you got a kid's got a ball game or something, I'm going to talk to that committee chairman. I'm going to say, hey, do you need me there tonight? Is it imperative? If not, my son's playing ball. You know, I want to be there. And again, most every time I've ever called a committee chairman and I've got a family thing to do, they're like, please, no. If you're here, I'm going to be mad at you. You need to be at your family's event or thing. And
Well,
if they need
have
information
families.
from me, I can.
You know, they have families too.
Yeah, and that's what matters more than anything
Right.
else. And so, you know, yeah, you got to prioritize your time. I think mastering time is one of the biggest challenges for everybody in life, right? Making the most of your time. That is the most precious thing we have is time.
Yeah.
And heck, I'll be turning 48 here in a few months, and I can't believe I'm 48, Jeff. I mean, it's just hard to
just
believe.
wait.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just hard to believe. So I'd say I've lived more life now than I'm likely going to live past today, and so it's very important to make the most of it.
You know, you mentioned the Norman Rockwell moments that we all want and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've always said that I've got a Mayberry mentality. You know, I like the small town mentality, that kind of thing. And of course, we are a small town, but we're a growing, hustling, bustling little town too. And there's a lot happening in our community, and we live in a sweet spot in the world.
We really do.
We really do. And it's being discovered, but we can protect our way of life.
Well, when I first came in, the first 2 years, we were the most moved to state in America, 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Now we're number 4 on that list. And we're seeing that trend decline just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. But now, heck, we've got this 1.48% property tax rate, which is one of the lowest in the state. So, you know, people, when they Google where's the lowest property taxes in America, Lawrence County's going to show up.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
going to show up. And
sure will.
So that's just the truth. But it's important. I think growth, what my dad always told me is that change is inevitable, but growth is optional, right? And so change is going to happen, but how we navigate change determines whether or not it's progressive growth, right? And we can sit back and be bah humbug or say we don't want things to change, and they're going to change, but we've got to get a hold of that change and manage it the right way. And I say change is coming like a train on the track.
Yeah.
But our responsibility as citizens and government officials is we control where the track goes.
Yeah.
And one side of that track is what is good, what is right, what is moral, what is pure, what is holy, and I consult the Lord on giving me wisdom for that. And then the other side of that track is what can we afford?
Yeah.
It's called fiscal responsibility, spiritual and fiscal responsibility is the way I look at those tracks, and we get to help guide that train with those two things.
Well, David, we pray that the Lord will continue to bless you and your family, and of course, just you as a county, as our county leaders all the way around. We're to pray for all of them, actually, and of course, we live in a church belt. And we have a lot of believers out there.
Praise God.
And we're thankful for that, too.
Yes, sir. Amen.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I've enjoyed the visit with you. Hope you'll come back sometime.
Yeah, I like to keep everybody updated, Jeff, and having a conversation with you is easy. Or as my Yankee staff members at the church say, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
There you
ever
go.
heard that?
Yeah, I have.
Anyway, all right, thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
See you next time.
All right, God bless. Well, that just flies by, doesn't it?
It does, man.